Hello, my name is Lorna, and today we're going to be learning how to wood burn. I have here a wood plank made from pine, and it has a jackalope drawn on it. I just used a pencil and drew out my design. You're welcome to trace the design or use a reference, draw your own. I have a wood burning tool here. This one is just a little cheapo one. It was about $20. I'm going to use just a standard tip that comes with it. It's slightly rounded. I don't want something super sharp. And I'm just going to go around all of my lines. I'm going to show you a few different techniques here. You want to make sure that you get a wood burning tool that gets really hot. There are a variety of tools. Some have little loops at the end. Those ones are really great. This tool in particular has a temperature gauge, which I really like, so that you can get really hot dark lines. The hotter it is, the quicker you'll be able to burn a dark line. A low temp though, you'll be able to do some shading, so it's really good to have a wood burning tool that has temperatures so that you can choose what you want to do. So I'm just going around these lines here that I've drawn on my jackalope, and you'll see that occasionally I turn my board, and I do that because the wood burning tool is awkward to hold, and because it's so hot, I can't control it like I would with a paintbrush. Usually with a paintbrush, I'll use my pinky to add support near the base if I'm doing fine lines. I can't do that with the wood burning tool. So what I do is I turn it so that I can pull towards me or pull away from me, depending on what's most comfortable. Now, there's no right or wrong way to do this. It's what's most comfortable for you. So as I continue to burn, you'll see that I am moving at different paces. I am going quicker on some lines. I'm going over lines multiple times, and some I'm not going over again at all. And that's because on this piece of pine, it has lots of different variations in hardness. So the tree's natural rings, some of them have more sap in them, some of them are wetter, some of them are softer, harder. So they will burn at different rates. The best way to judge that is if it is really soft, like your tip wants to sink in, you can go a little bit faster, and if it's hard, slow down, because the harder wood burns slower, and you sometimes have to go over it multiple times. Here I've hit a bit of a knot in the wood. It has little imperfections in there, and every time I hit one, my wood burning tool either sinks in or it doesn't go through that part, and so I'm just burning through that by slowing down and going over it a few times. For this eyeball, I want it to be a little bit deeper than the rest of the area around it, so I'm just going to use the tip and poke some dots in there. The way that you would burn things like circles and fill things in is up to you. You could do long variegated lines, you could do circles, you could change out your tool tip and do some finer lines, which would look really cool. There are tips that you can use that are like stamps almost, and that would be a fun look. I'm not doing any shading in this today, so that's why I chose this tip. This tip is a good all-around tip. You can shade with it, but I like it because you can get some pretty straight lines, but I wanted them to be a little bit wider. There is a chisel tip in the kit that I have, and you can order them online or go to the store and get them. The chisel tips are really nice for fine lines, but they can take a long time if you want a thicker line because you have to go over it several times. So I'm just going to be rotating and going along these lines here. This ear in particular, I see that there is quite a bit of sap coming out. It's actually starting to smoke and boil, which is a bit of a trouble. So you can see that there. So if you run into a pocket of sap, it's nature. You can't really do much about that. You will have to go over the area longer in order to get a dark burn that is consistent with the rest of your piece because the sap is wet. The sap also spreads, so it could lead to some inconsistent burning as well. The sap is also more flammable, so this is where it's likely to catch on fire. I don't think it'll catch on fire here, but if it does, it's pretty simple to put out. Yeah, you can see it bubbling there. It looks like there's just a vein of wood in this grain right here. You can see it runs all the way down. That just has a lot of extra sap. So I'm going to move on to the other ear, and I'll go back over there. I have a feeling when I do that antler, it's going to be messy. So here I am just going over this area a little bit more because there is another knot right there. And just to bust that out, I'm just going as slow as I can. This video is sped up to 2 times speed, so I'm actually moving even slower than you see here. This project took me 30 minutes from start to finish, and the video here is going to be 15. So I'm about finished with this line work, and then I'm going to go in and do the little antlers in front. And I'm going to show you a few different techniques as far as texture goes. You can achieve a lot of texture by either burning deeper, burning hotter. You can use the different temperatures to create shading or different colors. You can get like an amber yellow color if you have a lower temperature. A lot of people, when they're first starting wood burning, are afraid to set things on fire, so they don't want to burn things at a higher temperature, which is fine. So if you wanted to use a lower temperature and just go slower, you absolutely could. So if I did, mine's at max right now, which I believe is like 500 degrees or something like that. I can take my tool and I can lower it, and I can go much slower if I wanted to. It would probably take about an hour if I halved that. So here I'm just going to use the tip of my tool, and I'm just poking in little circles. And you can see the texture that's giving it, kind of like an antelope's ear, or antler, not ear. Jackalopes are one of my favorite mythical creatures by far. I think they're very cool. They came about because of taxidermy. Someone just thought it was fun to do, and they put a jackrabbit with an antelope. This one's a bit of an antelope slash deer. He's got little antelope horns in the front, and then I have big deer antlers. I think the big deer antlers just add some more drama and really emphasize the fact that this is a mythical creature. So I'm not going to repeat that pattern that I did for the small ones on this long one, but I am going to try and get deep, dark grooves. I want them to be deeper than the rabbit's head, and to achieve that I'm just going to go over it multiple times. I'm going to go slower, and I'm going to use not just the tip of my tool, I'm actually using the side of my tool as well. You have to be careful using the side of your tool because you see this big giant barrel here. That is going to leave some really dark marks if I accidentally hit that on my piece. So I'm just going over, and you can see that it is really dark. It's also starting to burn the area around it, leaving a little bit of a shade. It's adding a little bit of yellow tinge to the wood around it because it's burning so hot, which I quite like. If you want it to be neater, I recommend turning down your tool or going a little bit slower. All right, we're almost over to the sap section. It's gonna be messy. I can guarantee you that. But that's okay. You can wood burn on a variety of different types of wood. Anything from pine cones to birch. Any kind of wood really works. Some woods are better than others because of their hardness, and some are more flammable, so they burn easier, which is not always a good thing. Most craft wood is either balsa wood or pine. I don't recommend the balsa wood. It catches fire quite often, and it is incredibly soft, so if you are heavy-handed like myself, it's not a great choice because you'll burn right through it. If you're delicate with your work, then balsa wood could be a great choice for you. Most of the stuff you get in craft stores is pine. Oh yeah, this sap area here, it's starting to smoke. It has a different smell to it, which is interesting. It smells like a pine tree. The rest of it smells just like a campfire, and this part, it smells very wet. It smells like fresh pine, like I'm actually in the forest. And it's starting to boil. You can see it boiling on the side there in the middle. And it looks wet. This may go away, this sheen that the sap is leaving may go away. It might seep back into the wood over time. I may have to do a little bit of sanding to get rid of it, or, which is more likely, is I'll sand it and then I will also add a clear finish over this. I was thinking about adding watercolor to the background of this, but with all of this sap, I'm not sure if watercolor will take as well in here. So I'm just going to add a bit of texture. So if I'm not doing shading by lowering the temperature on my tool, I will go in and do some shading with dots, which is called pointillism. So I'm doing a little pointillism here. It's really incredible stuff, pointillism. Some people have a lot more patience than I do. This is just a few little dots. Some people put millions of dots into their work, and it's very impressive. I love to look at it. I do not love to do it. So And these dots are just going to create a little bit more dimension. Like I said, I'm not doing shading, so this is going to make it so that different planes of his face are sticking out, and some look like they're further away. You can add color to these. You can use different wood stains. I like to use watercolor on mine. You can use gouache. You can use acrylic on there and just gently paint over it, or you could water down the acrylic. That's really a nice look as well. I tend to try and keep the wood grain showing through, which is why I like watercolors or gouache. That way you can see the wood grain through there. You could also use colored pencil on there. So the last few little dots, going over these eyes a little bit more. I think they need to go a little bit deeper. I'm just gonna hold my tool on there a few minutes. Yeah, I like that much better. So there you have it. There's my jackalope, my wood burning. I hope that you try wood burning and that you enjoyed this video. If you did enjoy this video, please like and subscribe. It's much appreciated. I hope that you have a wonderful day. Thanks for stopping by.